One of the things that I liked about the film that I wasn't expecting is this emphasis on language, basically with the German. And I mean, it's just because it's one of those details that obviously you don't get to see in summaries, press materials. It's a little thing, but in the film, it's obviously very important because there's a lot of texture and family history and this it gives some more meaning to these moments that you have in the film. Your character has with the mother, and as opposed to all this other life that she's rediscovering. So that's I thought that was a nice touch, and I like that at some point you describe it as a mother tongue in the truest sense of the word.
Yes. I still haven't spoken with a German person, so that they can tell me if they find our accent very strange or not. I would like to know that.
Because it is your German is also, as they describe it in the film, it's sort of a German that is stuck in time.
But I, for example, I don't do an effort to pronounce as a German. I speak like my mouth and with the German I know, which is it is a good German, but I never lived there and I don't have the actualized vocabulary, and my mother either. So there are a lot of words we kind of translate into Spanish with the German ending or something. A word you would never use in German, for example. Maybe they understand it, but they would never use it. So it is German, but also my mother, she does a little bit more. Her accent is a little bit more German. But mine, you feel like I'm speaking Spanish, but I'm speaking German. I don't do the r. I use my r from Spanish, and it's like that.
It's interesting because when I studied linguistics, and one of the most interesting phenomena is this, when people move and they start speaking the language, the people abroad that have been brought up in a new country, but still with language of their family. This language is very precious because it's an archaeological treasure, because it conserves some of the traits of like a century ago, and that never really happens in any other way. And I thought that really works well with the theme of your film, this idea of synchronicity and achronicity that sort of overlaps.
It's so good that you remembered that. For me, it's a very nice idea.
It is.
And there are so many words in the movie that maybe also I worked with it a lot, but people watch movies only one time, or not one of movies. They can watch them more often. Theater in general, they don't look it more than once. But and you put so many things in there, and it's so random what people are going to really take with them.
But since I know that you are a novelist, a playwright, in addition to being an actress, and I know that you've sort of dealt with this type of topics before in your writing, but I was wondering, all of these ideas about temporality, which to me seem central in the film, is that the reason why this is in the film form? Because of how...
It's a good question, but I would say I discovered that I was also talking about that while I would say already shooting. It's not that I thought I wanted to talk about that. I thought I wanted to talk about maternity and also starting over, being 40 already, and for starting over in love life, to say it somehow. And that's why also my mother and my son were there. But naturally, when you start to work on familiar things, something new happens I wouldn't have expected, and there is this monologue about the time overlapping and everything happening at the same time. And doing the film, I discovered that family and maternity has a lot to do with that. Also, working with this familiar archive, with this slideshow, with the slides, and seeing my mother as a child, and then she looking a little bit like my son, and I was telling my mother is also my daughter, and I'm all of a sudden everything like it's happening at the same time somehow. But it's not something, an hypothesis I had before.
Okay.
But I realized that there was this little idea of this overlapping of time, and then I also, in the title of the movie, this repetition. Okay, maybe there was this this concept from the beginning.
The repetition not only comes in the film in terms of like there's a few visual even at the end when you go back at the intersection on the crossroad, she goes back and then, but also in the way that the characters they talk about temporality, and they talk about in terms of lines intersecting. It's a very visual way of spatial way of.
Very hard. There are three basis ideas. I tell you now, but these three ideas I had them a long time ago already, and I always knew I had an audiovisual idea, but I didn't have the direct ambition of making a film, and also making a film is very expensive, so it's not something I was thinking about. I was not ready for doing all I have to do to get the money, so I had this idea there. And when the producer, Diego Dubcovksy, who is the mentor of the project, asked me if I wanted to adapt to the cinema, act and direct a part of my last novel, I said no, but I have an audiovisual idea. And this idea was only a woman who has a young kid, and that the first moment I thought it was a baby because I wasn't a mother yet, but I had a friend who had a little baby, so I was thinking about her coming back to her family mother's house and being daughter with a kid and not really knowing what to do. And also my mother and the German, and my mother's place and her little Germany between her walls, the German for her and for us. This is also something I wanted to capture because it's ending. It's going to end at some point. My son doesn't speak German anymore, so it's something it's getting extinguished, and I wanted to keep that. And these two things I had in mind for a long time, and the first moment, this older idea, it was an actress with a baby and my mother, and it's the only other Argentinian actress I know that speaks German, and that's why, and my mother knows her, so it could have been also. But then time passed, and I had a kid already when the possibility came up to do it. So it was still the same idea.
So how long? So we are talking a long time.
The first idea I had it long ago, but I didn't have an ambition about that. I had it there.
Okay.
It was there, and I didn't even know if it was something I would do.
Right.
Because there are a lot of ideas you have and you never go for. But then everything slided into into the movie.
And is your family also a family that is a simple family, but they keep records of everything? As you say
they
in
do.
The film?
And now, the other day, a friend saw the film, and she told me, and you say that in the film that they record everything, and you are doing that with your movie. And I thought, like, it's true. Yeah, it's true. My father, he did also take a lot of pictures and videos, and he wasn't either an artist or something as my grandfather, but they all took a lot of pictures. I don't know why.
I don't know if you saw, this film reminded me a lot of Sarah Polley's Stories We Tell.
I love that movie.
Me too.
Very much.
I think it's incredible.
I love her, and I love this movie, yes.
There's this perspective, which is, first of all, the bravery of when you see something that it clearly is personal and lived in on screen, and you have that goosebumps of like, how hard can it be to just put it up there for other people to see. So there's a sense of invading something very private, but also this pairing of these very old images that they feel real, and the idea of making a discourse about like interrogating those images and like asking them questions and wondering what you tell, how you tell it. And I think it's kind of the same territory.
Yeah, I had forgotten that movie. In fact, I thought a lot about, and when I was coming, I thought maybe someone would ask me about inspiration. And I thought about films, but I didn't remember that one. And yes, in fact, I did see it a few years ago, and I loved it very much. But I think if I would have seen it again now, I would have get depressed because I loved it very much. So I wouldn't have watched it again now because I would have said, "Oh, my film is terrible.
Oh no, your
Why
film
did
is
I
very
do
good.
it?" But
You should rewatch it safely
Okay, now I
in the
can do
knowledge
it.
that your film is great.
Now I can do anything more about my film, so I can watch it again.
Tell me about your vision for things like the cinematography. What sort of how you saw these images coming to life, because it was striking to see this Buenos Aires, which is already it's already another place in the film, because your character comes from another city and a very different place from the capital. But then every scene seems perpetually in twilight, and there's always this soft light.
At my mother's home, mostly, no, it's always very soft. And yesterday at the Q&A, I said that also she comes back to Buenos Aires, but she goes to her mother's house, which is obviously not in the city center because there are trees. When we are in the outside at my mother's neighborhood, it's always it's a suburban place. So there are like three distances, as if this young people life activity, cultural activities would be in the city center, and then is the mother's place in an outside, also in this suspended time, because this house is in a suspended time of her lifetime and of the city, in time and space also, and then her living really in the mountains. So for me, it's also that the city for the character, not for me, sadly, is something very strange for her.
Okay.
It's the other that could have been also, as she is the other for people who live in the city and this fantasy of going wild.
I like that, especially in the relationship because your character in the film has a best friend there that she finds again, but actually the really interesting relationship is a new one with the little sister of this new best friend. And I thought there was a lot of honesty in these little depictions of a relationship that is obviously important because she's someone close to your best friend, but also those little embarrassing moments of not real familiarity when she arrives at the party. It's like, I don't know if I could bring my son. Those little touches, tell me how, because that turns out to be an important plot point in the film later on.
Yes, it does.
Tell me about building that tentative relationship with this new character.
I wanted to have her, the character, to go through this little seduction situations, and there was the situation with I'm the teacher and he's about the student, which is very also not working, and where she doesn't even know if she's going to generate the situation or not, but she's kind of practicing, and then you think it's going there, the romantic interest, and then she finds this young woman. I think she discovers she discovers her as a woman also, because maybe the last time she saw her it was a young girl. But also I think it's not only romantic, this flash, also I have the hypothesis that somehow she also desires or remembers herself at that age, in the moment you can do whatever you want sexually, and taking the decisions very freely, and with this person and without attachments. So this is maybe a symbolic explanation that is not really important, but for me there is this hypothesis that in fact she is seduced by, not only by the girl, but mostly by the life she leads. Like another possible life she didn't take because she got a kid and a boyfriend and lives like a classic family in the mountains. And she also, when I did the movie all the time I thought, but I'm not telling anything heroic. Why am I? Who could care about that? And also, but then I think this this little doubt or this little shifting of things in your life, even if you're not going to make a great change, are a lot the life all the time. So that's also what I wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
Because I don't see that so often.
Exactly. Many things in this film seem, because these are familiar topics, but it's the perspective that counts, as you say in the film. Our view is everything. But also, for example, I was struck by...
You did watch it only once, and you remember all the... You're crazy.
Yes, but it's I mean, I watched it today, but there are some things in there that really, they stick with you.
Yeah, but only with one, you are very concentrated.
But for example, this character is also... She's obviously in a moment of uncertainty, but at the same time, she has this refreshing... she's very straightforward. Like, she tells people, because you would imagine in a situation like that, she would be very cagey, and so in that case it would become, even from a filmmaking point of view, you have to have an access to this character because she needs to show herself, but that's not what normally people would do. But I found it interesting that she's, like, for example, she meets this new guy that she maybe has an attraction to. And her thought process is always, it's like she's saying to him,
she's putting everything outside.
Yeah, you're good looking, maybe I'd like to kiss you, but I don't know.
And he does like, I have no idea. Yes, this is something I like to do very much when I write theater or whatever, or also narrative and this awkward moments. Also very... quotidian moments, I don't know how you, or ordinary, ordinary moments, but this little like jumps in these ordinary moments I like very much. Yes, and I wanted also, I used a lot when I was talking about the film, when we did it to the people who are working with me, I used a lot the word rusty, oxidado, to referring to her, to my character. Like, she's rusty in love issues, in love matters, like, and then she doesn't know exactly how she has to move. That's why she has this kind of date, and she says, I think I like you, I could kiss you, but she doesn't know how to behave, or in the party even she's dancing, like, how does young people dance?
Yeah, the dancing scene.
Yeah, and that's why, I don't know, I wanted to show that also. This girl doesn't knowing how to, what you have to say to a person you like or so.